Welcome to Consumer Talk and to consumer journalist Wendy Knowler, who is back with us in studio today. We're going to be discussing the ongoing issues with the new Irish visa application system. Unfortunately, we've seen a number of South Africans suffering huge frustration, missing key life events, and also, as you'll hear today, suffering pretty substantial financial losses as a result of sort of shifting goalposts, if I can call it that. So we're going to devote quite a bit of time to that and to some of the case studies that have come our way. Nothing against Ireland. I was lucky enough to get to Ireland, visit there with my son in late November 2022, and it was the most wonderful experience, the most beautiful place, wonderful people, all of that rich history. Even though it was late November, early December, it was very cold and very wet. We just absolutely loved our trip there. But Wendy, we were lucky enough to squeeze in that trip when it was still possible to do so without a visa as a South African traveling on a South African passport.
Which was a huge appeal in
It
itself.
was huge, yeah. And it was, I think, literally just a few weeks or if maybe a month or two later. I'm sure listeners will remember, we demolished Ireland in the rugby, and almost the very next day, boom, the news broke that South Africans would in future have to apply for a visa to visit the Emerald Isle. And unfortunately, it has not been a smooth transition. Certainly not if you look at the high number of complaints around the turnaround time for those visas, Wendy.
No, exactly. So the biggest takeout from this discussion is going to be, if you're planning to visit Ireland and you have a South African passport, you must not buy your ticket until you have your visa in hand or in your passport, right? Because up until recently, the Irish government was advising or was making it mandatory for you to show proof of having purchased your flight and your return flight and booked your accommodation if you weren't staying with friends, proof of where you're going to be staying, in other words. And now, very recently, they have started saying what I've just said now. Don't book your ticket before you get your visa, which, you know, is great advice given what's happening with the delays, but it also means that you are now being forced to book last minute, and that's so much more expensive, as the case study will share proves. It's you know,
caught betwixt and between. Yeah. And I mean, as you'll hear, Wendy, it's that the transition from the one to the other that has been so problematic for so many people. So, as you said, originally, VFS, by the way, is the visa processing company that has been mandated by the Irish government.
They do the application process. Yes.
So, up until fairly recently, VFS was saying expect 6 to 8 weeks turnaround.
Yeah.
And you must be able to provide proof of your flight and accommodation.
That was September.
Okay.
And then it went from 6 to 8 to 8 to 12, and now it's the Irish government told me 90 days. Somebody who applied, we'll get to her later, she said she was told 12 to 14 weeks.
Turnaround from application to receiving your visa.
So you must apply that far in advance, and so many people applied, and then the goalpost moved, and now they're stuck.
That's huge financial
loss.
Can
you imagine the anxiety?
Now, again, in fairness to say, we know many countries are taking a long time to process visa applications. Wendy, it's not a situation that's unique to the Irish government. And in some cases, like Canada, you can't even get an appointment to apply for more than a year and a half. I have a friend who was in that position who was told the first available appointment is over 500 days away just to get an appointment. So it's not to say that they're the only one experiencing this issue, but it is this issue of the shifting goalposts which has caused all of the problems for our listeners. As you've said, flights that have been booked that now can't be made because the visa hasn't arrived, or if you make the decision to wait until the visa's there, you have to pay that last minute very expensive premium for the flight. Do you want to walk us through the first case study that we have today, which really very well demonstrates the terrible predicament that some of our applicants are finding themselves in?
Indeed, and this case is really touched my heart. 105 days ago, it's a precise number, and it needs to be given the context here. 105 days ago, in other words, more than 90 days, 77-year-old Philip Berman, who lives in Victoria West in the Northern Cape, he applied for a visa to visit his family in Ireland. Bear in mind the trick. He drove to George, overnighted because it was late, then flew to Cape Town from George the next morning, then had to get an Uber to the VFF offices and repeat the process. So that in itself carried a huge
expense.
Cost. Yes. his he has family in Ireland. His son, daughter-in-law, and their daughter, his granddaughter, who's 9 years old, and they have a particularly special bond. And he goes over fairly often. So, he applied in March, 105 days ago, as I said, which was the advice then. When he first made inquiries with VFS in September, which is when he booked his ticket, it was 6 to 8 weeks,
Okay.
which is significantly less time. Okay, so he says he tells me he's too old and to travel economy, so he saved and borrowed and paid a special 28,000 Rand to Lufthansa for premium economy seat.
And he did that well in advance. So he at the time.
September last
Okay.
year.
So this is just to clarify here. Philip is one of those in this position of when he originally made inquiries,
Yes.
he was told
6 to 8 weeks.
6 to 8 weeks turnaround, and you have to supply proof of flight. So he went and booked the flight.
Yes, that's his
waited
biggest
until,
beef.
Yes, and then waited until the appropriate time to put in his application, which he did in
March. We're in July now.
And important to note, Wendy, it wasn't only the cost of a basic visa application. He paid quite a few other extras as well.
He paid 2,000 Rand, the equivalent of, for 2,000 Rand for a multiple journey visa, plus another 1,000 Rand to VFS, which covered their service fee and the cost of couriering his passport to Victoria West. And that's on top of the 7,000 Rand it cost him to actually get there. That's nobody's fault, but
Get
that was
to
his
VFS to make the application.
and back.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So his losses will be huge, financial and emotional, of course. But let's talk to him about how those rack up.
Philip is with us on the line. And Philip, I'm so sorry that you are going through this. I can just imagine the massive anxiety you must be facing, because I know your flight is booked for the end of July, and that's suddenly very, very close from now with no visa in sight. Thank you for being willing to share your experience with us, and welcome to Cape Talk.
Thank you very much. And the strangest thing is, I just put on my computer and checked. Everything hasn't changed. The application form still says airline ticket. It still says 10 to 12 weeks.
As in, you must have that. Okay.
Yes, and it was updated yesterday. The 8th of July says at the bottom of the form.
Okay.
Gosh, that's so bad. So what they are communicating offline is not weighing up with what is
No.
being communicated online.
I must tell you,
Correct.
Philip,
Yeah.
both Pippa and my eyes lit up at when you said you've just checked, and we thought you were going to say, and it's
He's
been
here,
from my
but
name is
it's
on the
not.
list, but it's not. How many days to go until you need it? Because it's not the departure date in your case; it's 2 days
I'm
before.
leaving-
Yes.
I'll have to be in Joburg to catch the
That's
flight with Lufthansa the 23rd. So it means I have to leave here the 22nd of this month to George, catch a flight from George to Joburg. I'm staying with my brother, and then catching the flight to Dublin the following day, the 24th.
Okay. If you did, luckily, let's hope it doesn't. You don't need to claim on this insurance, this extra cost you paid, but you did pay Lufthansa a little extra, so that if you cancel for whatever reason, they will refund you what you paid, which was 28,000 Rand, Philip?
No.
Yes. They will
Let me
refund
just tell
you
you.
minus 5,000 Rand, so you will get, say, 23,000 Rand back from that flight, right?
Correct. Now, as I said, Wendy knows, I'm 77 years old. Who says I'm alive next year?
Yeah.
That's number one. It's the school holidays. I phoned my daughter-in-law. She said I can come later in August because the school holidays last to the 27th of August. So I went onto the internet and went to Lufthansa, and believe it or not, all Premier Economy on the later flights are all sold out.
Mm.
I can get a flight on the 13th of August, 54,000 Rand now, Premier Economy.
So that's almost double. That's 26,000 Rand
It's
more.
exactly double.
Double, yeah.
Sure. Philip, I mean, so we're talking substantial financial losses besides what you've already spent just putting through the visa application. The implication on the flight costs, if you have to delay this trip, are, to say the least, substantial. You've been in regular I don't want to say regular communication because it's been a one-way affair. Philip, I understand you have literally been mailing the Irish government on a daily basis saying, where's my visa? What sort of feedback, if any, have you had?
Nothing. It says go to the portal. You go to the portal. I'll tell you, the portal hasn't been updated since it confirmed on the 27th of March.
When you applied.
That they've received the application. No update. After all the emails and everything, they say, they reply, contact, look at the portal. But nothing has been updated since the 23rd of March.
Okay, so I just want to pause, and Philip, please stay with us because we still have one or two more questions for you. But I just want to put this in perspective. The number of messages streaming in on our WhatsApp line as we speak, and others that have come in since yesterday. Yesterday, Wendy, I heard from Colleen, who wrote in to say she had applied for an Irish visa on the 24th of February. She was hoping to get to Dublin in time for the birth of her daughter's first child in mid-April. No sign of that visa ever arriving, so she had to move her flight booking. She did so again and again and again. In total, she has had to move her plane ticket 5 times.
Oh, no.
She then eventually cancelled the trip entirely at a cost of thousands of rands and wrote to me to say, as we speak, it has been 19 weeks of silence. No delivery from the Irish side. I'm hoping to receive my visa by the end of July and to try to fly again. And this is really interesting to me. She says, by contrast, we applied last week Monday for a Schengen visa and it arrived in 4 days. And this is a very good question. She says, why? If Ireland is part of the EU, why did they not join the very efficient Schengen system instead of launching their own private system that they're clearly ill-prepared to administer?
That is an excellent question.
It's a very, very good question.
I will be
Colleen.
posing that to the Irish government.
Here are a couple of other examples. Sarah writing in to say, my sister had a baby in Dublin in March. My mum was hoping to go over, had to cancel her trip and is 10,000 rand out of pocket. My stepdad has waited 9 weeks for his visa with no joy. George saying, this Irish visa thing has been giving me sleepless nights for weeks. I applied 2 weeks ago for my visa, hoping to have it in time for the Box versus Ireland in Dublin on 22 November this year. I've needed to apply for a second passport so that I can continue my normal travels for business whilst the Irish visa office holds on to my passport for who knows how long. And I don't even know if I will get my visa in time.
That's the other issue. We covered a case of this shortly after the visas became mandatory for South Africans. Do you remember somebody who had a trip to Botswana?
Yes, and their passport was stuck there.
Yes, and she had to cancel that. She couldn't go on the trip because her passport was stuck in the Irish visa.
Process.
And when she booked the Botswana trip, the Irish visa was not a thing. So, yes, you are stuck for any other form of travel beyond our borders.
Yeah. Guy is another one saying, why are VFS still taking applications when they know the turnaround time is so long? We lost flights and accommodation. We had applied for our UK visas. We were landing in London. That took 3 weeks to get to us. We then applied for the Irish visas and sadly had to get our passports back after waiting 12 weeks. We can do one better than that. Sadiq saying, my brother-in-law has applied on the 14th of October for his visa to join his wife in Ireland. Until now, every time we make contact with VFS Global, they say the same thing. It is still in processing. It has been nearly a year and we have no further information.
Unacceptable.
His daughter, who is also in Ireland, is giving birth to his grandson in less than a month. He would have liked to be there for the birth. Is there anything we can do? And unfortunately, there is nothing we can do.
We hate to say that.
In this case.
I have to say at this point, before we continue with Philip, that as I said, this case has really touched me, and I've gone back to the Irish government to say, can you at least give some status feedback on when he can expect his name to appear on that lucky list? And I was told, no, we cannot comment on individual cases because of data privacy. Well, of course, the data subjects, as we are referred to as, are begging for
that feedback,
for me to be able to intervene on their part and at least get some much needed information. But unfortunately, so frustrating. We can't get anything on individual cases at all.
At all. I'm so sorry to be able to have to say that to you, Sadiqa. Wendy, in fairness, I mean, there are so many of these stories. That's just a sample of a couple of those that have come through. Has there been any formal response from the Irish government that you're aware of? Because we're not the only people complaining about this.
Yeah, there was a conference in Ireland a couple of weeks ago. There was a news conference. Ireland's Minister of State for International Development and Diaspora, Neil Richmond, he took questions from South African journalists on this issue. He first explained that they had introduced the visa requirement because they had seen a 100% increase in people entering Ireland from South Africa and Nigeria about a year ago and claiming international protected status. I don't know whether, I mean, it occurs to me that probably more from the Nigerian side, I'm not sure, but he acknowledged that since the visa regime was introduced, there have been swamped applications leading to the current delays. He conceded that the human consequences of South Africans not being able to visit family in Ireland on business trips and of business trips having to be cancelled. And he said, and this was just 2 weeks ago, his department had doubled its resources to handle visa applications both in Dublin and Pretoria. But Philip told me that he's really not seeing that in sort of output of number of visas being granted every week.
And the reason we can quote Philip on that is, as I've said, Philip has been communicating, checking on a daily basis. And let's bring him back in at this point. Philip, thanks for waiting. You've been watching those figures online, watching them like a hawk every day, looking for the list of names of the lucky people who have been granted a visa. Tell us what you've observed about the number of applications that are being approved.
Okay, to me, it's an absolute disgrace. From the 17th of June, these are the dates I got, visas issued. 17th of June to the 24th of June, 136. 1st of July to the 8th of July, where they're supposed to have triple the amount of visas they gave out, it's gone to 204. That means last week they only gave out 204 visas.
Okay,
so
it's a weekly figure. It's a weekly
figure. So that so-called doubling of resources isn't resulting in a doubling of output.
No. I gave Wendy the link that was updated yesterday, the 8th of July. She's got the link to prove these figures I give us 100% correct.
Okay. So, Philip, I mean, thank you for being willing to share that with us. And obviously, you have been monitoring this with an eagle eye. So, it's very helpful to hear what you've observed in terms of the numbers that are being processed. We've got about now, not even a fortnight before you are setting off. All I can say is that I really, really hope that everything will come through. Philip, I mean, besides the financial loss, maybe just before we let you go, let's talk a little bit about the emotional toll that this has taken on you, and I would imagine on your family on the other side as well, of this not knowing, being stuck in this limbo.
You know, another thing is that I notice on all the people on Facebook, YouTube, whatever, everybody complains that they don't give you a date. If they say to me tomorrow, listen here, we'll give you a visa on the 10th of September, then a person can work around it. I can't now phone Lufthansa and say, Lufthansa, can you change my ticket to, say, the 13th of August? I haven't got a date. Because when it gets to 13th of August, like other people that's written into you, they tell you, sorry, no visa. They don't give you a date. They don't even reply to your emails.
You can hear the stress and anxiety that's causing. Philip, I'm so sorry that you are going through this, but thank you for being willing to share your experience with us. Lynn, an interesting perspective, saying, I wish Durko would get involved with this debacle. I'm a travel agent. I am boycotting Ireland and Canada.
Yeah, those two are
the two that are having the worst, I think,
do something about
delays.
Look at the Canadian situation, because a number of travel agents have spoken to me about that.
It was, as I said, I had a friend who's got family in Canada that was trying to connect with and was told 524 days, I think it was, to get an appointment. Yeah. So, Lynn, interesting. I'm sure you're not the only travel agent who's just saying, look, it's not safe. you can't, there's no predictability, I guess, and you need predictability when you're booking a very expensive overseas trip.
Something I just want to throw in, and I'm going to be investigating separately,
Yeah.
but travel agents have told me don't arrive at any VFS office to apply for any visa more than 15 minutes ahead of your booked appointment, because they will charge you extra.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, can you believe it? So just you can come back, within 15 minutes, but don't be super early.
Oh my goodness. I mean, really, what next?
What next?
Here's another one from Tessa. Says, my partner and I went through this process in April, getting to a wedding in Dublin. It is hugely distressing and frustrating. The emotional and financial toll of waiting with no word is awful. VFS and the Irish Embassy seem to have no control. Only the Department of Justice can approve applications, and they only approve a certain number each day. Now, I mean, the question is, Wendy, if they know that they can only approve a certain number each day, should they not be capping the number of applications that they accept?
Something needs to
reflect that?
change, or they need to improve their feedback, even if it's just bot driven, just to say you are likelihood that your visa will be based on our current application numbers, whatever. I think it's Philip. I was hoping he would say it on air, but off air he said to me, it's utterly cruel to do this to people. And I think the word cruel is appropriate here with what we're seeing. Official words to get on the record from Ireland's Department of Justice. I thought it sounds like an odd department to be dealing with such a thing, but the full name is Justice, Home Affairs and Migration. That's the full name of the department.
Okay.
They don't offer much hope. I asked them, what would you like to say to people who are begging and pleading for visas? Applicants are advised that unforeseen delays can arise, which are outside of the control of the visa desk. This is what I was told very recently. If an application has significantly exceeded the target processing times, it is possible that on initial assessment, the application has not met the criteria to be issued a visa, and further assessment or verification is required. In such instances, processing times will be longer than 90 days. Well, that could be the case in Philip's case, although, it could be likely. But the point is, he doesn't know. Nobody's telling him a thing. So how they communicate that, they don't say. That you just have to keep going onto that portal, daily, weekly, whatever. The official advice is for short stay visas, applicants should apply up to 90 days in advance of their proposed travel dates, and that applicants should not book flights until they have received and validated their visa. How do you validate your visa? You get your visa and you think, yay, everything's on track. I don't know what that means. I should have queried that. And then a statistic. Since July 2024, which is when this whole thing started, 94% of short-stay visa applications have been processed within 90 days of receipt by the South African visa desk, and I would guess that most of those were in the first half of the year, not the second.
Because it sounds like there's been a real slowdown of late.
I think if they had to give us the figure for the last 3 months, or let them can't do 3 months because it's 90 days, the last 6 months, we'd see a very much lower
different
percentage.
Story. Yeah. I mean, we had another case study from Judy in Hart Bay, applied for their visas in May. They'd bought their tickets in January, paid for accommodation for a family trip with 5 people. So you can just imagine the costs involved. She
just
said
the visas alone, 18,000 Rand plus.
Yeah, and they applied in May, which was the time frame they'd been told. That she said we were told the process would be 6 to 8 weeks. So applied in May. About 2 weeks or so after our submission, we were advised by VFS that the process was delayed and it could now take up to 12 to 14 weeks. With this time frame, we will miss our flight. And again, she's been trying to communicate with them to say, what do we do? What avenues can we explore?
But,
and just no feedback.
In the work that I do, you can hold a supplier to account if they don't meet their own delivery promise. So she was within time. She's 6 to 8 weeks, but even if they told her 90 days, then they move it and say, no, it's actually, what's 90 days? It's how many weeks?
That's a month and that's 3 months, right? So that's approximately 12 weeks.
Yeah, and now they've said, no, it's actually 12 to 14 weeks. So how do you do that to somebody once they've already applied? It's and made plans accordingly. So she's sitting there. What time? What was the date that she's applied?
Applied in May. So to June to July to August. Okay, there is still some time in hand in that case. But the point is, Wendy, it's the moving of the goalposts, and it is the changing, conflicting information about you must have booked your flight versus please don't book your flight, compounded then by just no communication
Nothing at all.
when anybody tries to follow up. So, again, it's very frustrating for Wendy and I to present a case where we really can't make a difference
Except to
other
warn
than
people.
to alert you to the fact
Yes.
that this is a major, major concern. And if you are planning a trip to Ireland, do not be fooled into thinking it's a simple, quick process, and leave some buffer room, leave substantial buffer room
You can't
in your
trust,
timing.
You can't trust that the initial promise will be met because
goalposts keep
sometime later,
moving.
exactly.
Very interesting message just in from George, who says, I have just received some positive news from my travel agent. She has mentioned that this issue is now at Parliament level in Ireland. Visas are apparently going to receive expedited attention, especially with the upcoming test between South Africa and Ireland. They know that there is going to be an increased need for visa issuing. I hope this is good news for some, but I can't guarantee everything. I, however, will be hanging on to those words. Thanks, George, for that small glimmer of hope. Bronwyn saying, we also lost 50,000 Rand due to not getting our Irish visas. Surely VFS knew there was an issue. How could they still take our money? Isn't that theft? It's a very tough one. Again, I'll circle back to what I said, Wendy. If they're aware that the processing capacity is capped at a certain number per day, to me, it's unconscionable to then take in more applications than can possibly be met.
Within the time frame that
even allowing for the fact that perhaps some applications will be rejected because they're not deemed valid applications.
There'll always
it's
be
unconscionable to me that you continue to operate as if you are processing normally.
And this is
when you're
certainly
not.
a story we're going to report back on. It was certainly on Philip's case in the next 2 weeks.
This may be a case of wishful thinking, but Trevor writing in to say, is there any priority for school tours? My friend's son is going on a multi-city European tour. Will the Irish consulate give special consideration for this?
As I sit here now, I have to say I doubt that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say. And we wouldn't know
Anyway,
because they're not communicating with anybody about that.
About specific cases.
Again, perhaps it's something for schools, etc., to take note of as well, that if you are planning this kind of trip that requires multiple legs and a lot of wangling of visas and destinations, that perhaps this is one destination you need to think about leaving off for the time being.
Yeah.
As much as it pains me to say that, because
I would
what a beautiful country, and I so enjoyed visiting it myself.
Me too, and I have strong Irish heritage, and it's just. I was planning to visit, but I think I'm going to wait until at least next year.
Thanks for that. I mean, that's an interesting perspective. So you can't claim on the travel insurance because you haven't had a no. Your visa hasn't been declined.
And we should
just
have
hasn't
actually
been
mentioned that. It wasn't in
issued.
my prep, and we didn't get there. So thank you for that. A travel agent did contact me last week to say, you think you're covered, but you're only covered if your visa is denied.
Yeah.
If you just doesn't come in time, it's not covered in the policy. So you don't. I mean, Judy's family and Hot Bay family, 18,000 Rand. That's just no way to recover that. It really is put South Africans wanting to visit Ireland for whatever reason in a really, really untenable situation.
I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, if the intention is to reduce the number of unwanted immigrants to the country, this is one way of doing it, but you're taking with them
the wanted ones,
the wanted tourist market, because who in their right mind is going to contemplate booking a trip to Ireland in the near future? Unless you are an absolutely diehard Springbok fan. I mean, who in their right mind would risk it right now?
No.
It's unfathomable.
The stakes are very, very high.
Okay. Oh, Emanuela, I'm so sorry. She said in February they told us it would take 2 to 4 weeks. They phoned yesterday to say it's ready, but unfortunately we've already missed our granddaughter's birthday, which was in April. This is, we didn't have a chance to really explore this deeply with Philip, but what I wanted to say, Wendy, is it's not just the financial cost. The emotional toll of the anxiety of not knowing, the sleepless nights, worrying, is it going to come in time? Should I be cancelling? What do I do? For the person who's waiting for the visa is hard enough. For the family on the other side, who are also trying to organise their lives and make plans, and grandchildren who are waiting for Granny to come and don't understand why they didn't.
In fact, thank you for mentioning that, because there was a report in the Irish Times about, sometime in June, mid-June, where they interviewed South African immigrants who exactly that were waiting for boyfriends, parents, etc., to come and visit, and so the agony is the same on the other side.
Oh, sterkte to those who are caught in this terrible in between. I'm really, really sorry for what you are going through, and I hope that they are able to scale up the resourcing on the Department of Justice side to process more decisions, Wendy.
Well, certainly from he's not with the Department of Justice, but that minister I quoted, Neil Richmond, he's Ireland's Minister of State for International Development and Diaspora. When he spoke sort of on the side of that conference in Dublin 2-3 weeks ago to a number of South African journalists who then wrote reports, I don't have it in front of me, but he said that in his constituency and where he lives, there are a lot of South African immigrants who have shared their stories with them of their family not being able to come and business partners and whatever. And so he was very much alive to the human side of it. So hopefully that will, if it's in Parliament, that would certainly, that kind of hands-on experience and exposure to what this is doing will help.
Will hopefully prompt some action on that side. Wendy, just in the last few minutes before we wrap up, I want to just switch completely to a different topic, if I may. I came back from my holiday to find an email in my inbox from the Woolies CEO announcing the launch of the new loyalty program on the 1st of July. And we've had a couple of emails from people who are a little bit confused about what it means for them, because they've read the press releases saying it's going to be a tiered system, that if you spend X, you qualify for a certain package of vouchers and benefits, but if you spend X plus Y, you get more, etc. And it's a sort of a sliding scale. But what that scale looks like hasn't been very well communicated. And I just wanted to take the moment to say, firstly, to those who've been mailing in saying from the perspective of, hey, all of my existing coffee vouchers and the like disappeared, they are being reloaded.
Yes.
Vic, thanks for letting us know. Vic's just mailed me because he was one of those who said, hey, they disappeared in this process.
And it's something you got used to and very much a nice to have.
And there was a communication saying they wouldn't be valid for the last week of June while they transitioned to the new system, but they hadn't reappeared. Vic's just mailed me to say, thumbs up, the vouchers are back, which is great. But for those who want to read the finer detail of what you get on which tier, it is actually there. It is in the terms and conditions sort of information. So if you click through, it takes a little bit of squirreling, is all I'm saying, on the app, within the Woolies app, within the loyalty rewards section. You need to sort of whittle down through to the terms and conditions, and there you will get a very clearly delineated explanation of what the 3 different reward levels are, what amount of spend qualifies you for which level, and what benefits come with which level. So there are 3 different reward levels, just quickly to run you through them. The basic level, which is called Loyal, is for those who spend up to 12,000 Rand a year, and you get access to various promos. You'll earn at least 4 vouchers per year, which is quite a substantial change from what used to be there.
Yeah.
And a couple of opportunities to unlock the play and win games. If you move up to the next level, which is ambassador level, which is for those who spend between 12 and 36,000 Rand a year, that goes up to 16 vouchers per year, plays, benefits, etc. And then the top tier, which is the VIP reward level, is for those who spend over 36,000 Rand a year. And that includes at least 24 vouchers per year, early access to online promos, all kinds of additional benefits. So those are the 3 scales. It's 0 to 12,000, 12,000 to 36, and over 36,000 Rand per year in spend. And it'll be on a rolling over the last 12 months basis in which you can move between them. Yeah.
Just want to say quickly, I did engage with Woolworths this morning and about the app being a bit wobbly, and they've said yes, this has been a huge undertaking, moving literally millions of customers from W Rewards over to this new My Difference. There was always a chance of a few hiccups along the way, and the app has been a bit unstable in the last week or two. The team is working very hard to get it into a good place, and they're almost there.
Okay, so allow some more wiggle room for teething problems, and but if you're having ongoing difficulties, it does sound like those few hiccups are being worked out.
Yeah.
But if you are having substantial ongoing issues with loss of benefits that were there before, etc., that you want to flag, you're welcome to send us an email. And remember, if you want to raise a case with Wendy, the best way to do that is on her website, which is wendyknowler.co.za, and that is spelled KNOWLER. WendyKnowler.co.za. Fill out the contact form there. You're also welcome to send an email to consumer@knowler.co.za. Wendy, thank you so much. A bit of a frustrating one for us not being able to help more. But I hope at least the public service of the educational aspect that this is what is happening and you need to be mindful of it.
Validating for all those others who are going through this, that they're, and if it helps,
not
they're not
alone,
alone, and just airing the sort of the magnitude of that problem.
And we'll chat again next week, Wednesday. Thanks so much, Wendy Knowler.